Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today I wanted to do another walk around or review of my new Honda 2023 Navi. I had previously done this a few months ago when I first bought the Navi and when it had 0 miles on it. And today I have 267 miles on it. So the previous walk around video I did, I think I missed a few things, and I just wanted to make sure I circle back and cover all of the things that you would need to know about, before you were to make a purchase. If you're on the fence regarding the Navi, hopefully this video can help. So let me turn the camera around here. All right, here we go. So, like I say, we've got 267 miles on it. The key is in the ignition, but it's turned off. Now, I do want to, I'll turn it on here, and the first thing you'll notice is no sound. That really doesn't turn the engine on. I'll show you how to do that. The only thing that does is it begins to activate the fuel gauge. As you'll see, my fuel gauge is slowly coming up, although I'm pretty close to empty right now anyway. But if I were full, it would take about a minute or so before it completely registered. So the instrument cluster there simply has the fuel gauge, the speedometer, the odometer, a high beam indicator, and a turn signal indicator. So let me turn the key to the off position because I want to show you a couple other things before we talk about the various controls on the Navi. So the first thing I want to show you is, so the fuel tank is under this black plastic thing here. It kind of looks like it's an enormous fuel tank, but in reality it's very small. So you turn the key to the right, prop this up, and you'll see now I've got access to the fuel cap. Under there is a fuel tank that holds less than 1 gallon of fuel. It's actually 0.9 gallons of fuel. Of course, the gas mileage you get on these things is pretty darn good. So, but it kind of makes sense to have a 1 gallon or 5 gallon fuel can in your garage, so you can fill it up as you need to. So before we talk about the controls on the handlebar, let me hop off the Navi. I've got the kickstand down so I can lean it over on the kickstand. So the first thing, let's take a look at the left side. So obviously you see the kickstand, you see the foot peg for your left foot, and in the back here there is actually a passenger foot peg. If you ever take a passenger, you're equipped. This guy here is a center peg, so if you want to stand it up on its center kickstand, to wash it or whatever, that's available. And this little doohickey down here is, if you flip that out, that's actually a Kickstarter. So you can kickstart the bike if you have a dead battery, or there's an electric start, and I'll show you that here in a second. But moving up here, this is an interesting aspect of the Navi. It has a storage compartment under the center, basically under the fuel tank, And that's really a very large storage compartment. You can act, as I was saying, you could go to the grocery store and get a couple quarts of milk, maybe a small loaf of bread. So comes in handy. So let's continue to take a look at the left side. So when we look at the front wheel on the left side, you're going to see two cables on the bottom here, these two cables. And if I go to the back wheel, you're also going to see two cables back here. So basically, they're brake cables. Typically, on a typical motorcycle, you're going to have one brake cable go into the front and one go into the back. The difference with the Navi is when you apply your brakes, you're actually applying both the front and the rear brake at the same time, which I think is basically a safety feature. So you never have the ability of just applying the front brake or only applying the rear brake. So it is what it is. I kind of look at it like a car's brake system. You know, when you push on the brake pedal in a car, all four brakes are engaged at the same time. So same thing with the Navi. Totally unusual, but yeah, there's no other motorcycle that I'm aware of that has that system. So down here is the, I'm going to call it the CVT transmission, automatic transmission. Since there is no clutch and no manual changing of the gears, it's an automatic, just like an automatic in an automobile. So coming to the back, you've got your two turn signals. You've got a grab bar for the passenger. You've got some reflectors. And of course, coming over here to this side, you've got the muffler, which is kind of ugly, to be honest. And actually, there's aftermarket mufflers you can get for the Navi. It'll not only look better, it'll sound better. So the stock Navi, you can hardly hear at all. So if that bothers you, then just go out and get yourself an aftermarket muffler. So on the right side, you've got your passenger peg. You've got your foot peg or foot rest for the driver, and then you've got your brake lever. So that's kind of the standard location of a rear brake lever on a motorcycle. But like I say, on the Navi, when you push down on that, it actually engages both the front and the rear brake. So coming to the front, nothing too interesting here. You've got your turn signals. You've got your headlight, which of course there is no LED lights on this bike, and you wouldn't expect that to be the case at this price point. So turn signals, headlight, and that's about it that's notable on the front of the Navi. One thing I didn't mention over here on the left side is you've got one shock and one spring. It's kind of offset a little bit to the left. A lot of motorcycles have two springs or shocks in the rear. The Navi only has one. Now, of course, you're not going to be doing any aggressive riding on a Navi, so you really don't need the greatest shocks in the world. And by the way, this little doodad here is I'm going to call it a fuel cock or a pit cock. It controls the flow of gas from the gas tank to the carburetor. And this motorcycle has a carburetor. So most motorcycles, new motorcycles, do not have carburetors. They're fuel injected. But again, at this price point, Honda concluded that they needed to go with a carbureted system. So the fuel piddock has three positions, an on and an off, and then there's a third position which is called reserve. So typically you're going to be riding around with it straight up, which is in the on position. If you run out of gas, you turn it to the right, and that'll put you into the reserve situation, where it'll have a quart or so at the bottom of the tank that it'll use. So if you run out of gas, forget to fill it up, you'll at least be able to switch to your reserve tank and hopefully get home or get to a gas station. Okay, we are back on the Navi, and we are going to again put the key in the ignition. We'll turn it to the on position. And you don't have to wait. You can start the Navi as soon as you do that. But we're going to talk about the controls on the Navi. And first of all, let's talk about the left side controls. So the first thing, starting from the top, is you've got your headlight and your high beam. You don't have an option to turn it off completely, so you're always going to have your headlight on, and it's recommended that you actually run with your high beams on at all times, even during the day, just an extra ounce of precaution. So right below that is your turn signal. Turn signals, when you want to go left, you just push it to the left. When you want to go right, you push it to the right. When you want to turn off your turn signals, you just push in the center. So these are not auto-canceling turn signals. So after you make your turn, you have to remember to push it in. Otherwise, your turn signal is going to stay on. And believe me, it'll take several rides before you get used to doing that. It's just not something that comes natural. And you just have to remember to do it. So below the turn signal is the horn, and so that takes care of all the controls in this section. Up here is a lever that looks like a mini clutch on a motorcycle, but that's not a clutch. What that is that's a parking brake. So like in a car, if let's say you're parking on a hill, you'll want to put your car in park to make sure it doesn't drift away on you, right? This is how you would do that on a Navi. Since it's an automatic transmission, that's how you put it into park. You'll almost never use it. Like I say, the only occasion that you will use it is if you park it and leave your bike while it's on a incline. So for experienced motorcycle riders, you're going to have a little bit of a learning curve, and you're constantly going to be reaching for what is typically a clutch right here, but it's an automatic transmission. So you'll get the hang of it after 2 or 3 rides. So looking down at the left side, as you can see, there is no gear shifter down there. Typically right in front of the foot peg, there would be a gear shift where you're going to shift gears in a typical motorcycle. That's not the case with a Navi. It's they call it a twist and go. So you simply twist the throttle, and you don't have to worry about what gear you're in. The Navi's automatic transmission takes care of all of that for you. So moving to the center here, you can ignore this. This is where I put my cell phone. Ignore this. That's my garage door opener. And coming over here to the right side. Okay, we've got this red, we're going to call it a starter button. It's currently in its off position. When this is sticking up, it's in its off position. To engage it, you simply push that down. So now the bike is ready to be started. So since I have the key on, I have the engine stop position in the run position. The only thing I need to do is, here's my run button, my start button. I'm going to push that one time. But the interesting thing with the Navi is there's one additional safety feature that they have, and that's in order to start a Navi, even though we're ready, you need to pull in the front brake while you push the start button. And I'll show you that here in a second. But before I do that, here's the throttle. It's simply a twist. You twist it towards you or back to give it gas. And to stop giving it gas, you just leave it go and it springs right back. So the one thing that I did miss over here on the left side is the choke. Manual choke. As you can see, I've got it in the off position when it's upright. And to engage or open the choke, you put it all the way down. So when you start the bike for the first time during the day, or it's got a cold engine, you'll want to open the choke all the way. And then as the engine warms up, you want to close it. And you'll close it gradually by moving this little toggle up into the off position. Now in my particular case, my engine is warm right now, so I'm going to leave it off. So coming back to the right side, I'm basically ready to start the bike. Keys on, choke is set correctly, my gas is set, and so if I were to push the start button and hold in the brake, it's not going to start, because there's one other thing that I didn't tell you about, and I miss this kind of like pretty frequently. As you can see, nothing happens. The kickstand is down. Again, another safety feature that Honda has. Kickstand must be up. They don't want you riding around with accidentally with your kickstand down. So now it's going to start. So I'm holding in the front brake. I'm going to push the start button. There you go. Can you hear it? Just barely, right? Okay, the very last thing I wanted to talk to you about was the mirrors. Left mirror, right mirror. They're excellent. I was a little bit worried at first that I wouldn't have great visibility with the mirrors, but not so. The mirrors are 100% perfect. I can see very well out of either mirror. My body hardly is noticeable when I look in the mirrors. Now, if you're a little bit wider than I am, maybe it might be a slight issue, but I'd be surprised. So, at any rate, I think I covered everything. So, if you have any questions of things that I did not cover, please drop a question in the chat, and I'll address it as soon as I can. But I hope this video helped you make a better decision as to whether you're going to get a Navi, or if just learning about the Navi and all of the controls. So Thanks for watching, and you all ride safe and have a great day.